In this video, we're going to be talking about multiplying decimals. So again, we're going to be filling out our foldable with the notes on adding, subtracting, multiplying, and dividing decimals. We've already filled out the adding and subtracting parts. So we're going to go ahead and look at the multiplying decimals section, which is the bottom left-hand corner. So first, we're going to go ahead and start with filling out our notes. So here it says multiply as you would multiply whole numbers. So we're going to act like those decimals don't exist when we're multiplying originally. And then at the end, we're going to use those decimals to determine where we put our decimal in our final answer. So our next step after we multiply as we would multiply whole numbers, it says place the decimal. So we decide where that decimal goes once we've multiplied. And then lastly, it says the number of decimal places in the product, which is the answer to a multiplication problem. The number of decimal places in the product is the total number of decimal places in the factors. So basically, we're going to see how many numbers are behind our decimals, and then that'll determine where we put our decimal place. So here, when we're lining up our decimals, or our numbers with decimals, we're not lining up the actual decimal, we're going to line up the digits. So you're going to take the largest number, or the longest number, excuse me, the longest number, and we're going to put that on top and then line up digits of our second one. So see here, we don't have our decimals lined up, we just have our digits lined up. So then we're going to multiply like normal. So go ahead and multiply that. We only have to multiply once because the other two numbers in my second decimal are both zeros, and when you multiply by 0, you end up getting 0. So you're actually only using this 3 when you're multiplying. So we're going to do 3 times 9, which is 27. 3 times 5 is 15, plus that extra 2 is 17. 3 times 1 is 3, plus 1 is 4. And then 3 times 1 is 3. So then if we actually had numbers here and not just those zeros, we'd add some placeholders and continue that multiplication. But for this, we're actually done. So once we have that product here, we have to decide where we're going to place our decimal. So we have to look at our original problem here, and we want to count how many digits are behind our decimals. So in this first number, we've got a 1, we've got a 5, and we've got a 9. So that is a total of 3. And then our second number, we've got a 0 and we've got a 3. So that's a total of 2. And since we have a total here of 5 numbers behind our decimal, or numbers behind our decimal, we're going to take this number, our final product here, start with our decimal at the very end, and however many numbers were behind our decimal, that's how many times we swoop this decimal to the left. So since we had 5 numbers behind there, we're going to move it 5 times. Once, twice, 3 times, 4 times, 5 times, and that's where our decimal is going to end up being. Then we have to see, well, there's this blank space, so wherever this blank space is, we're actually putting a 0. So our final answer is 0.03477. So we multiplied like normal and then found how many numbers were behind our decimal places and used that number to determine how many times we swoop our decimal place to the left. We're going to go ahead and try another one here. And here we have 6 and 32/100ths. Remember that this dot here, that's multiplication. And then we're going to multiply that by 9/100. So we're going to go ahead and line this up. Longest number on top. We're going to multiply that by our second number. Here, since they both have the same amount of digits, it doesn't really matter which one we put on top, which one we put on bottom. So again, we're just going to multiply like normal and then deal with our decimals later. So 9 times 2 is 18. 9 times 3 is 27, plus 1 is 28. 9 times 6 is 54, plus 2 is 56. So then we have to look at our two numbers here. We've got 2 numbers behind that first decimal, 2 numbers behind our second decimal. We're going to move our decimal place a total of 4 times to the left. Once, twice, 3 times, 4 times. So our final answer is 0.568, or 0 and 5,688 10,000ths.